saved ourselves close to $1 million over 3 years in workers' comp premiums. In fiscal year 20, our health insurance renewal had a 3% premium increase. This is part of our management of our benefits that our claims history allowed us to go down to just a 3% increase. Also, we have negotiated contracts with our unions that have allowed them to pick up an additional 1% over the next 3 years. So they currently, in fiscal year 20, are paying 10% of the health insurance premium. In 21, they'll be at 11%, 22, 12%, and 23, 13%, which is an additional 1% savings to the board's expenditures for health insurance premiums. So due to the claims history and the additional percentage picked up by our employees and minimal changes to premiums are assumed, hence giving us some savings. In both of the sections for salaries and benefits, we do continuously monitor and update those for new hires, retirees, resignations, and anybody who's paid out of grants. So that'll cause fluctuations, which you'll see like sometimes between your October and your May forecast, because staffing is sometimes unpredictable in terms of who resigns and retires. So under purchase services, which is the next big chunk of our expenditures that we budget for, the majority of our purchase services is deductions for ed choice, community school deduction, open enrollment out, and like tuition for court foster place out students. These are items that are somewhat out of our control. So we are trying to manage those increases in those deductions by decreasing some of our contracted services. We were able to reduce general fund expenditures by moving dollars over to the student success and wellness funds, because we already had those initiatives in place that they are supporting under that initiative. So we were able to save $355,383 by moving some of our contracted services. For some examples are the Inspiring Minds After School program, Akron Children's Hospital, and Valley Counseling. And that was from October 2019 to June 30th. We also moved approximately $430,000 annually to the wellness dollars from the general fund for community liaison salaries and benefits. And that gives us a good remaining amount in our wellness dollars to carry forward and use for expanding programs under those allowable dollars. Okay, so community school deductions is our biggest purchase service deduction, so we always have a need to discuss that.
Okay.
However, you can see in fiscal year 20, our community school deduction is $6,867,504, which is only an increase of $36,230 from fiscal year 2019. So it doesn't seem to be fluctuating very much. It seems to be holding steady. Mm-hmm. Our average over the past 3 years, excluding fiscal year 18 because ECOT closed, so right. We got a lot of students back, so that's kind of an outlier, and we won't use that in our average, but it's 648 students, or ADM, going out for community school deduction. The problem,
648, wow.
The problem with estimating the community school deduction is not knowing what kind of categorical funding students going out are going to receive, because you have the student going out, but then they also may have special ed needs, right? And that fluctuates so much. So We just use our best estimate on historical data, so we have it decreasing by 2.1% through 22 through 24. 21
That's been
through
pretty
24.
much the history. I mean, within that range, it's been pretty much our history over the last few years, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So we kind of stick with that, we're in the ballpark.
Mhm.
So there's been no major,
Right. I don't anticipate any,
okay.
um,
I haven't heard of any other schools coming on, I don't know.
No.
But they usually do it the last minute, so you never know.
no, the other deductions besides community school are your open enrollment, ed
Right.
choice, and your John Peterson and autism scholarships. So you can see, our biggest thing to monitor now is ed choice because of the expansion.
Yeah.
And this year we had approximately 61 additional students from 2019, and that was an additional $295,000 that we were deducted.
Their choice for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the message is down
Yeah.
176 miles to the
Mhm.
And then keep in mind with ed choice, your K-8 cost that you're deducted is $4,650. The students in 9 to 12 is $6,000, so we do have to build in an increase too for those that move from
From eighth grade
Eighth
to
grade
ninth.
to
Yeah.
high school.
to the high school level.
Mhm.
John Peterson and autism scholarships have remained pretty steady. We have 2 students on the John Peterson, which is $20,050 deducted for that. We have 6 students on autism, $180,578 deducted for that. The maximum amount that an autism scholarship would deduct is $27,000 for each student. John Peterson ranges from $7,196 to $20,000. So that number has stayed pretty constant
Yeah.
over the past few years, so that we've kept that estimate remaining constant. Open enrollment out, like I said, had a slight increase of 11 students from 19 to 20. Based on historical average, it has fluctuated up and down, so historically we're going to estimate a decrease of approximately 0.5% in 21 through 24. So just to summarize, where do we need to go from here? Obviously, we need to concentrate on not deficit spending. In doing so, we need to continue to monitor the state budget due to changes in COVID to clarify uncertainties in our future funding. The purchase services is generating our biggest increases, and like I said, that's our students going out of district. So focusing on, needs to be on continuing to find ways to reduce our contracted services to offset some of those increases, which we have taken the initiative with the wellness dollars. And we've also done some things like with the ESC that brought some things more in-house that have reduced some of our curriculum costs there. Our focus needs to be on personnel, which in turn drives the benefits. And what I mean by that is just continuing to right-size the staffing, not looking to furlough or lay off, but just, as people
Retire.
leave
Yeah.
through attrition, determining if there's a need to replace. And continuing to receive reductions in expenditures through that manner. Obviously, bringing back students, we continue to find improvements in our local report card. We offer benefits that they cannot get when they go on an Ed Choice scholarship. All of these factors and advertising that can help to reduce those students going out and our reduction in costs. And finally, just to, in fiscal 19 and fiscal 20, we did move $1 million each year to our capital improvement fund. And, you know, continuing that practice as long as our budget can sustain it, I think would be prudent. As we can see, you know, our buildings are all new, but we've definitely come
maintenance.
into
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of expenditures as they've hit this 12-year
Absolutely.
mark. So
Just like a house.
that's it.
Thank you.
Unless you have any
Very nice.
questions.
Thank you so much. And then this is available then? They can contact you directly?
Yes.
They want a copy of it? Okay.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the forecast?
Yes, Karen, can you provide us information as to where the open enrollment students are coming from and to where our out are going?
Absolutely.
Additionally, the autism scholarships, the Peterson scholarships.
Yes.
All because those are costs that we have no control over.
Mhm. Yes,
Until they happen.
that's outlined on our foundation statements. That's on the Ohio Department of Ed's website, so I can email you a copy of that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I never got
Sure.
Why don't you just send the board a copy?
Yeah, I'll send it to
then,
everyone.
in case.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Thank
Very
you
nice.
very
Good
much.
job.
You're welcome.
Very thorough.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
And you keep it understandable so we can follow right along.
Keep the eye on the crystal ball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The moving.
Keep the eye on
The
the
moving
crystal
The
crystal
ball.
ball.
moving
Right.
target.
All right. Item number 7, the superintendent's report. Mr. Shire.
At this time, I'd like to yield the floor to Mr. Lacy to give an update on the business office updates. When he's concluded, Mr. Nicholson would like to provide some updates as well, but that could be under the athletic committee
Okay.
reports. Mr. Lacy?
Yes, kind of the biggest update right now is one where you'll have on your agenda item, which is the Willard School project, where we'll have we had a ventilation issue on design. We had a ventilation issue upon design from what we were told. And so from this, from when I started actually, back in January until now, we've gone through a couple of different analysis to see what can be done in the Phillips Kenneck. So we put bids out. Basically, there's been some, there's a condensation issue that has developed over the years. The ventilation is not properly going out of the buildings. So to correct that, we put bids out, or we put a bid out last month, and just ended on the 18th of May, and it was about $223,000. So to start that, right now would put us at about July, as far as the middle of July and middle of August for completion date. So that is kind of come to conclusion. I handed to Patty updates of the softball field.
Yes.
Bill will have more information on that. We took pictures of the auction items to be up for auction. That should be online and probably be ending by mid-June. And I don't think anything else. Oh, the Monroe project is at the zoning office now. Patty signed the replats.
Yes.
And so that'll be there hopefully within, her decision will be made hopefully within John May has that time. And that's about what I have. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Uh,
I got a question. Right here, right here. So if the problem was in the conception of the building, are we going back to OSFC for any discussion of that? I mean,
talked to
that's a
Gazelle.
chunk, that's a chunk of change. That's almost
Yes.
$250,000, so.
Talked to Gazelle. The state of Ohio has, what did she call it? It's basically immunity to the project or some sort of sovereignty.
Imagine that.
The
The architects have errors and omissions insurance.
That's,
Yeah.
and from what I'm told, for 10 years.
Oh.
oh,
And
It's
this is
expired.
And this is year 12.
Yep.
Or was year 12. Yeah. So, in talking to Gazelle, yeah. And what's happening?
I think they should at least go half with us.
I do too. But that,
I mean, no, seriously,
yeah.
Makes sense.
And we can turn, as I said, we can flip the switch to Gazelle to say, see what you can find.
Yeah, I
But
think.
as I said, in my
Why not?
in my conversation last week with her, it was, you're stuck.
We have been working with your legal counsel along the way as this situation has developed. And so we've been following her practice, but we surely can reach out to her further and have
Yeah.
any further conversation as far as moving forward.
Yeah, so we can have, I had a feeling that might be one of the, Stephen, we had a feeling that might be one of the questions, so.
And you thought it would
Question.
come from here,
Um,
right?
Question two,
Yeah.
as the design of McGuffey is so similar
Yes,
to Willard,
is that a problem?
do we have a problem at McGuffey?
Jefferson and.
Jefferson.
Jefferson and
Jefferson,
McGuffey
yeah.
are the sister. Willard
Yeah.
is individual built.
Yeah.
None of the other buildings
Are like it?
are liking. And basically what has happened is that in some of the classrooms, we thought it was a leak, I think, for a significant period of time. And we had to actually cut access into the attic area. There's no access in the one section, and you could see on the interior and exterior that it looked like melting, kind of like snow melt. So,
Mm, okay.
so, but yeah, I'll call it.
I don't think we're very.
And the condensation occurs, from my understanding, that when it is, like a day like today, that it is unusually warm and humid outside, and the air conditioning may be running on the inside, and then you've got that sub-ceiling in between that is combating between the hot and the cold, and condensation occurs. So this doesn't occur year-round.
Yeah.
In the cold of winter, it doesn't occur.
Right.
It occurs at different times when you have extreme temperatures between the inside and the outside, and then it develops in between. So it's like maybe the beginning and end of winter and this time of the year. And it depends on the ceiling structure. It's the sub-ceiling. It's not the roof. It's not the
It's in
panels
between.
you see in a classroom.
Yeah.
There's a ceiling above the panels of the classroom.
Gotcha.
Between that ceiling and the roof structure.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that-
Okay.
Is it the whole building?
It is not the whole building. It's the one section back by the receiving area at Willard, and then the 6 through 8 section, the front hallway.
3-5 upstairs?
And is that 3? Yeah, 3-5. The upstairs 3-5, and the downstairs. So it's and as I said, so what it's going to do is it's going to continue. We talked to not only architects but our roofing people, Bokenson, who we have a maintenance contract with. It's kind of it's deteriorating the roof also, not deteriorating as but it's making the roof wear
Jeopardizing
faster.
the integrity of
It's
the roof.
wearing faster
Yeah.
than what it normally would. Yeah, because
Yeah.
So it's but again, in our investigation, it was the contractors say it was a design flaw. The designers say
That's how it's designed.
that's how it was designed, and
Contractor built the design.
state of Ohio is going to say you chose the architects. That was on you. So, yeah. But again, we'll talk to Gazelle and
Okay.
see if we can.
Provide legal opinion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is the local architects that we had involved, is that Phillips County, is that who's?
No, these architects were out of Columbus,
That's what, okay, that's what
whose
I'm saying.
name I can't remember. But they were, I know, looking at their plans, they were out of Columbus.
I think we still have. her
Fanning
go
and
back
Howie,
down.
yes.
Because at that time, it was called OSFC, and it's changed a couple of different,
Correct.
they moved things around, so there's been 2 different
Osowski,
people
Gemini.
involved with that, so.
But rest assured, your local architects are stepping up
And,
to
okay.
rectify
Yeah.
the problem, even though they weren't awarded the
In-
contract at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, Philip Sekenic has been
Oh, I see.
very, very good to work with.
And I think Fanning Howie has dissolved.
Oh, was
That's what it was.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
that one? Yeah.
And on that note.
And on that note, yeah.
Well, at least it's getting fixed.
Yeah, as long as,
Thank you.
yeah. But I mean, you know,
It happens.
Yep, nope, and that's about all I have.
Very good.
well, thank
See-
you.
Good job.
Do you see how well we take bad news?
Right. I just asked for half, that's all. I think I was being,
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I
Given the
think the
age, you
partnership
know,
dissolved.
level of responsibility, I think half's the good thing, right?
I'm just glad it's not parent danger.
How long have you been repairing it? Because it's,
That concludes the superintendent's report for
it
this
could have been
evening.
started less than 2 years.
Yeah, oh, okay, he's going to the athletic.
So you can go back to the record and see, hey, this first happened.
Good evening, everyone.
Board of Education Committee reports.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So we'll move on to the Board of Education. Well, you said he was just gonna, you know, piggyback here. All right, so Mr. Nicholson under athletics, if you'd please.
All right, I think most of you are aware of the last Thursday, Governor DeWine made an announcement that he was going to allow all contact sports to return to action effective May 26, which was today. It happened late Thursday afternoon, so gave us a few days to try to put something together if we wanted to. It's still up to us what we want to do. And obviously, I thought that was just not a good time constraint for us. So what we did was I met with Mr. Shira, Mr. Lacey, Mr. Capers, and we finally got some guidelines from the OHSAA. I've put that in a packet for you to review. At first, they were very unclear earlier in the week. I think most athletic directors throughout the state were a little nervous about what the governor had put down as guidelines. And by Friday afternoon, Jerry Snodgrass, the executive director of the OHSAA, came out with some concrete things that he had kind of modeled after the National Federation of High School Sports, which we had seen that earlier in the week. It consists of 3 phases of returning to your schools. Certain things you have to do, as you can probably see. You know, the phases have to do with pre-workout screening, limitations on gathering, facilities cleaning, physical activity and athletic equipment, and hydration. So I put an email out to all my coaches and kind of told them we're going to sit down and come up with some action plans on now that we know the guidelines, we're going to sit down, create some action plans on how you are going to run your practices. You know, when I talked to Mr. Shire, we kind of compared it to a teacher creating a lesson plan. You're going to sit down with me. Here's your guidelines. Come to me. I'll review this with you, make some improvements to it. And once we feel comfortable that we've kind of done all the guidelines that are necessary to return our kids to the skills training, we get the blessing of Mr. Lacey and Mr. Shiro. And once they do that, our goal is to get the kids back on the field by June 1st. I think it's realistic. I don't think today was realistic, but I met with Coach Arnold a couple times today. He's been very proactive on creating an action plan. He submitted it to me early this morning, his first one. After reviewing of it, there was a few things I told him he probably wanted to change. He changed them. I feel pretty good at what Steve's going to do when it comes to having no more than 10 people out on the football field, 10 people out on the upper field, the lower field, and 10 people in the varsity house. Because, being inside versus outside, there's other constraints that you have to worry about.
Right.
And when you're inside the varsity house and the weightlifting, the number one priority is the sanitizing of the weights. Once one child uses the bench press, it has to be wiped down immediately before another. So we've got plans in place. We've talked to Mr. Lacey, Mr. Shimko about being able to provide us with resources that we'll need to make that happen. And I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to get them there for them to start up on Monday. I've actually included a copy of Steve's lesson plan on what we're looking for, that you can kind of look at it. I sent an email out to my swim coach and soccer coaches today and kind of said, here's a sample of what Steve
Nice,
submitted.
yeah.
If
So
you-
this is what he submitted?
Yeah, that's the second revision. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think he's got a plan. I think, safety of the kids are the top priority. I'm also going to be very active on afternoon turn next week, going around the practices to ensure that, what's going on is going on. As you can see, the number one thing is when the kids come, the first thing is we're going to take their temperature. And the coach is going to be responsible for that. And if you can see in your packet, there is a log. Not only do the students, the players have to get their temperatures, and we'll record all that information in a log. The coaches must have theirs taken too.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we're going to do on a daily basis, to have data to continue to track what's going on. Phase 1, according to the governor, is a 14-day period. If we don't see any increases in anything, it's stable or declines, we'll go to phase 2. Phase 2 doesn't look much different from phase 1. When you get to phase 3, your groups of 10 now go to about groups of 50. So I like that the National Federation had this in advance. Kind of disappointed with the state's initial things, but I'm very happy that the OHSAA kind of fed off the National Federation guidelines, and it's made me feel a little better about being an athletic director coming up, because it was very muddy as of 3 or 4 days ago how we were going to approach this stuff. So, are there any questions on what we're doing? I mean, obviously, you know, we got to have a plan. The action plan is going to be reviewed by me and the coach, go over it, and the final, we'll present it to Steve and John to make sure they're okay with it, and if approved, they'll be able to start as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this just for the high school? There's no middle school sports?
This is for high school right now. We talked, Coach Arnold and I especially, we talk a lot, he's there every day. We felt that we want to keep the numbers manageable when we initially pilot this. So, you know, I know that we're looking at probably 70 to 80 football players. So they're going to run 2 sessions, an early session and a late session. So I just thought before we get the younger ones involved, let's see that we can do it and do it well with the numbers that we can manage, and then eventually we'll incorporate our younger ones in. Okay?
Are we
Yes, sir.
Is there any plans to implement any other sports, or we're just going to see how this goes first? Or
Well, we've got volleyball and basketball that eventually will get an opportunity to get inside of the gymnasium based on,
Answer?
yes.
Yes, all sports, when the coaches come up with a plan that is acceptable. So we could have them all in a week, or it could be a long time, but the protocols are not going to be adjusted. They're coming down from the state, and that's the way it is. We're also looking to do staggered starts. Someone came to me as a middle school coach and said, yeah, we're not doing middle school stuff. Just like you were asking, what about middle school? Well, we're going to start with our high school varsity, get them up and rolling, staggered start, move on to the next.
I agree with
Right,
that.
I think we need to be careful and go slow with this and make sure we're doing it well.
Yeah,
before
I
we
agree.
increase the numbers.
Ready to review. I mean, if we get 5 plans tomorrow,
Yeah.
we'll do it. I was on with Coach Luco over the weekend. He
Yeah.
submitted some thoughts, and I said, hey, you need to talk to Bill. You need to know the specifics we're looking for,
Yeah.
and not waste time. so
Because
we get
each
the kids
sport's
in the
different.
pool. Absolutely. 'Cause
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want the kids engaged
Yeah.
at the levels that's being prescribed, provided it can be done safely.
Yeah, if you notice, you read through that document, no locker rooms.
Right.
They've got to come prepared to practice and what they're
And
coming in.
yeah.
Hydration, you're looking at, they have to bring, the other sports bring their own water bottles. Steve secured